SAT reading preview, getting you all nice and ready for this upcoming exam. My name is Sean. I am a sophomore at Harvard studying psychology, and I will be one of your hosts for tonight.
Hi everybody, I'm Lyubov. I graduated last year and now I'm also hosting at Fiveable.
Awesome. Make sure before we get started and too far into it tonight that you all give us a follow on our Think Fiveable socials. You can come catch up with some awesome TikToks over there. We have awesome memes, exam-related content, and general study tips posted on our Instagram all the time. You can check out super useful practice and review videos on our YouTube. And always a good idea to connect with everyone on LinkedIn that you can. So definitely make sure you check out our Think Fiveable socials. And also, make sure you unlock Cram mode. I know we have tonight as one of our free preview streams leading up to next week's paid Cram mode sessions. And let me tell you, if you enjoy what you are getting tonight, you're going to absolutely love the Cram mode in the coming weeks. It will unlock beyond just the awesome streams. You'll get tons of practice questions, access to all of our Cram finales leading up to big exam days. And that is not only for the SATs, but also for the ACTs, the PSATs, and all the APs you'll be taking later this year. In addition, you're the first to access new features, and you see a ton of our study guides, cheat sheets, and study planners to make sure you all can ace your exam seasons. All right, let's right before we get into it, talk about some community agreements that we all have. First and foremost, we all have to be respectful. We're here to learn in a safe space. No being rude to people in the chat. We are all just here to learn. There are no stupid questions, and we are just happy to support you in every way we can. With that, make sure that we are all supportive of each other. So important that we lift each other up. We're working together so we can all do great on these exams. It's super important that we're patient. I know there's a ton of content to cover. We have limited time with you guys. We're going to get through as much as we can in the way that we see it the best to get through as much information. And then be kind. I know I'm a real person. We're all real people here, and we're just looking to get you guys as well prepared for your exams as we can. So tonight, we just went through our welcome. We're going to hit you with some SAT basics, throw some passage overviews with a fun little mini quiz on there. Then we'll spend a lot of time going into our science on the SAT section, and then we'll hit you with a closing. So first things first, the basics. Let's get into it. The SAT English exam, or the English portion of the SAT exam, is worth 800 out of the 1,600 points that comprise the total exam score. Within the English section, you have SAT reading and SAT writing and language. Tonight, our focus is going to be on the SAT reading section. The SAT reading section is 52 questions that you have 65 minutes to answer. So that comes out to about a minute and 15 seconds per question. Although that's not exactly how it works out, because you do have to account for the time it takes to read the passage. And your questions are going to come from four independent passages and one set of paired passages. So let's talk about these different kind of passages that you might see. The four SAT passages, the first one is literature, second one is historical, the third one is social science, and the last one is scientific concepts. So tonight we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on this science concepts question. You'll see a ton of practice, and we're going to do a pretty brief overview of the first three, as well as a little mini quiz to practice them. But if you stay tuned with us next week for our Cram mode streams, we're going to go nice and in-depth to every single passage type for you guys. All right. So the literature section is looking for we'll ask one of three different types of questions. First is synthesis. Synthesis asks you to read a paired passage and then compare the information given. How can you compare and contrast different things? What themes are similar? What themes are different? How does the author articulate different themes in different ways? And so that's kind of what you're looking for when it comes to the synthesis part of the literature questions. For global perspective, it's going to ask you to identify broader themes, how we can take away the main ideas that the author intends for, and to evaluate whether the author is or isn't effective in doing so, and what information might be more effective in doing so. And lastly, The dreaded command of evidence questions. They're some of the trickiest, some of the scariest, but once you study them, once you get working on them, like we'll do with you guys tonight, command of evidence isn't as scary as you think. And in fact, you might think it's one of the more comforting question types. What command of evidence is going to ask you to do is provide support for your previous question and answer using a piece of evidence from the text. For our historical passages, you're going to be asked one of two types of question. Either a connection-based question. A connection-based question is always going to ask you to focus on patterns, connections, relationships, and ways that different ideas, events, characters, driving points, and different things that are incorporated within the text connect to one another. Second, you're going to see cause and effect questions. And what the cause and effect questions are going to ask you to do is identify the condition or action that resulted in an event, and to look at similarities and differences, and how different kinds of action, different kind of causes can result in the same effect, how one cause can result in many effects, and how you can identify what the best cause-effect relationship is. Social science and science concepts are going to focus on the same kinds of questions. You'll see again our synthesis, so that will ask you to combine information from a paired set of passages. Again, kind of the same idea as the literature one. What connects to different ideas in different passages, what evidence contradicts each other, supports each other, works together to tell different themes, to tell the same theme. All that kind of stuff is what synthesis questions are going to ask you to do. And then infographics. Infographics is another one of those exam parts that people get a little bit nervous about. But honestly, I love infographics, because if you have an infographic, it gives you all the answers you could possibly need right in front of you. And as long as you feel confident and empowered to interpret the graph, you'll do great on the questions. And again, that's another reason I highly recommend checking out our Cram mode streams next week. We do a big in-depth description of infographics and how to analyze them effectively. That's a great skill to have. All right, so let's get started with it. We are going to begin our SAT reading preview quiz. You can scan the QR code found on the screen, or I will also put the link in the chat. We're just going to get started with a little bit of practice. Yeah, Akil, this will be recorded, and you'll actually be able to find the recording of the stream at this exact same link. And tonight, there'll be a little green button that pops up with it. So yes. All right, we got 6 participants in there. You know what? I think let's get started with it. Awesome. So, here's your first passage. You can go ahead and take a minute to read that. And once you feel like you got an answer for this question, feel free to click on the corresponding button. All right, we got 3 out of 6. If we can get maybe one more. All right, let's go ahead and reveal the answer. The purpose of the description of enhancing ambiance in this passage is to, yes, convey the emotional impact of music to the reader. Absolutely. When we read the passage, let me find where it says it. I don't know why I can't find the words. And the stage was adorned with colorful lights, creating an enchanting ambiance. So the reason why it is B is because it talks about the way ambiance is used and enhancing the ambiance is trying to describe how there's this feeling that exists, and the music is enhancing this feeling and mood that exists. So by using the phrase enchanting ambiance, it's conveying how magical and kind of almost whimsical this music is, and how it has a strong emotional impact. The reason why it wouldn't be creating a sense of anticipation is or highlighting the visual elements of the festival is because, as for letter D, the reason why we use descriptors like this is usually not just to talk about the elements that exist, but rather do something to enhance our theme. And then it does kind of create a sense of anticipation, but it definitely more so is intended to convey the emotional impact of music, because you can tell from the next sentence when it says the audience was transported into a world of harmony and emotion, that emotion is kind of the focus of that descriptor. All right, let's do question number 2. The same passage. I'll find a orange. Here. The stage was adorned with colorful lights, creating enchanting. Awesome. 3 out of 6. That works for me. Let's see the answer. Embellished. Yeah, y'all nailed that. The vocab ones are usually pretty good. If you can find it, it's pretty easy to extract what the context of the word is, and if you know the context, pretty easy to figure out what the vocab word means. So great job, guys. Yes, embellished is the correct answer. All right, number 3. This is a different passage this time. Oh, I love you guys can throw emojis. All right. We have 2 out of 6. Can we get one more? We need one more to bring the music back. Okay. I will take 3 out of 6. Beautiful. Let's see the answer. Yeah, soothing. You guys got it. It says right later in that sentence, they provided a soothing backdrop to their labor, telling you exactly what the sound of the waves crashing does. So nice job with that one. And it's based on the same passage as well. Awesome. 3 out of 6. Let's see the answer. Yeah, overflowing. Nice job, guys. 2/3, you guys got that one right. When we look to the last sentence, with each haul, the boats return to the harbor laden with a bounty of fresh air, their sails glistening in the morning light. Yeah, the reason I want to be overflowing is you can kind of tell from the context, a bounty of fresh air. A bounty means a ton, an excess, a huge amount. And so this the way that they use this metaphorically in here is it's overflowing with fresh air. So yeah, nice work. Question 5. Same passage, one more. I'm gonna do 10 more seconds before we reveal the answer. Right, let's see it. Yeah, set a serene atmosphere. That is very much a phrase that is used just to kind of set the scene and describe what's going on. So nice work with that question. All right, this one's a paired passage question. So take a minute to read the passage, and then I will scroll down and give you guys. Maybe I can just there we go. All right. A few more answers. Right, all right. We got 2 out of 4. We'll give it another second. All right, I'll go ahead and reveal this. Yeah, you guys nailed it. They highlight existing government initiatives that address obesity. That's what it does. That the first sentence says it agrees with the passage 1 by saying that America is getting fatter and that obesity rates have more than doubled. But then it contrasts it by saying they demand government action and ignore existing initiatives. So that is the major opposition to passage 1's claims. All right. One more time. There we go. Let's do another one. Same passage. All right, let's see that answer. Yeah, the correct answer would be B. And the reason the correct answer would be B is because passage 2 doesn't describe the economy at all. Passage 1 takes a strong focus on the economy, but when it asks what do both passages agree on regarding the economy, passage 2 doesn't mention it at all, so the answer would be nothing. There's nothing that they agree on, at least with the information given. All right, one more at the same passage. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and reveal the answer. The correct answer would actually be C. Contributes to an incomplete and inaccurate portrayal of the situation. Um, yeah, the statistics, it wouldn't be A because it talks about an objective understanding. And in passage 2, it's clearly not an objective understanding because they make a claim about them. It says that it's neglecting anti-obesity efforts as well as non-quantitative factors that affect health. So what that's basically saying is that it's not an objective standpoint. This is an opinionated standpoint. The reason it wouldn't be D is because it does not highlight the need for government intervention, but rather says government intervention's happening. It's just not being considered in the statistics. And for B, I could see how B and C could be confusing. However, it doesn't necessarily generalize its results to the extent of the obesity problem in America. It doesn't really talk about some like truthful standard of the real extent in a way that C is more accurate because it shows how obesity information isn't being portrayed accurately, how the statistics aren't accurately portraying the obesity information, which is why C would be the correct answer. C is not necessarily saying that what passage 2 is saying is incomplete and inaccurate, but it contributes to the understanding of the issue. It's explaining how people misunderstand the issue as because of their inaccurate and incomplete portrayal of the situation. All right, just kidding. We have one more paired passage question. How do both passages differ in their approach to the issue of obesity? This is one of those great synthesis questions. How do the two passages contrast each other? How can we take the information from both and find the logical? I would say the key word in this question would be their approach to the issue of obesity. Alright, that seems a little tricky. So I might just go ahead and reveal the answer for you guys. Yeah, the correct answer would be C. Passage 1 emphasizes the need for action, while passage 2 critiques the portrayal of the issue. And again, I pointed out the key word in this passage is their approach, because some of the other ones are true, to some extent. However, when we're talking about the approach, how the authors approach their argument, passage 1's approach is an advocacy piece. It's a call to action for something to be done with the issue of obesity. But passage 2's approach is to critique the way the issue of disability is portrayed. That's what the author writing passage 2 had in their minds. I'm critiquing the way that diabetes and obesity is portrayed. So yeah, that is why C would be the correct answer choice in this case. Let's do one last one. For this section. What common point did both passages make about obesity? This is asking us to find the common ground between the two pieces. Get about 15 more seconds. All right, yeah, the correct answer is B. And the reason the correct answer is B is that was the only common ground kind of found that, at least out of these answer choices, that was found between the two passages, is that there has been a significant increase in obesity rates. Rather, where the passages differ is that passage 1 suggests we need to do something about this increase in rate, and passage 2 argues we're already doing something, it's just not being used. So though their arguments about obesity are different, they have the same common ground that obesity rates have in fact increased. And you can find that they both have the sentence in passage 1 from 1960 to 2000, the obesity rate rose. Exactly, you got it there. And then in passage 2, statistics show that obesity rates more than doubled from 1960 to 2000. And with that, out of respect for time, to make sure that we can finish all of our materials tonight, we are going to, sorry, I just have to reshare my screen, and we will continue with some practice. So I am going to kick it back over.
Okay, so now we'll be going over scientific concepts. So you will have a chance to read a science-based passage and then answer the questions. So let's just start. I will share a link in the chat. You can follow and read passage number 1. You will have 1.5 minutes to read it. If you need more time, we can give you a little bit more. So let's just start. Okay, it's time. Hopefully you guys were able to go through passage 1. And now we'll be moving to question number 1. So please vote. You should be able to see the poll now. Just put your answer there, whatever you think is the correct one. And it's on your right. There is a tab poll. You should be able to see there. Don't forget to vote, guys. Maybe a few more minutes. But the correct answer is, let's see, that next slide. C, and you guys are correct, 100% correct choices. So it's number C. And let's go over why that would be the case. So you can use different strategies here and like how to pick and choose which answer is the correct one. You can use elimination strategy, or you can just try to guess the one that is the correct one. So if you use the elimination strategy, we can just go over like A, B, and D. So A, solar energy is more abundant than fossil fuels. The first thing that you should remember about the questions in SAT, and especially like scientific concepts, is that you should be focused on the passage. So even if you know some like additional facts or more information, you don't really need to use that knowledge here. You just need to look at the passage, be able to get some information from there and answer. If it says like according to the passage, then that's all you need to do. So in this case, the question is, according to the passage, what is the most important advantage of solar energy over fossil fuels? So if you look at number A, or like the first choice, then you see that maybe that's the case, but it doesn't really emphasize that point in the passage. So you wouldn't choose that. Then B, solar energy has lower installation costs than fossil fuel power plants. That's not the case. In the passage, we saw that the solar energy had like lower operational costs, but not necessarily installation costs. And then D, solar energy is a more reliable source of energy than fossil fuels. So there wasn't really like a deep discussion of whether solar energy is a more reliable source than fossil fuels. So we wouldn't pick that choice as well. And then let's go to C. So in this case, we see that in the passage it clearly states that solar energy does not produce harmful greenhouse gas emissions, but fossil fuels do. And then you see that the word main really helps you to kind of identify the choice here. And then you can find in the text, especially like one of the main advantages of solar energy is its environmental sustainability. So that's how you can find your correct answer. And good job here. Let's move to the next question, and you will have the same passage. You should be able to see the poll. The time is up. And let's see what's the correct answers. E, and again, you guys are doing great. So let's just go over all of the answers. So first, the question. So the question asks which of the following statements is not supported by the passage. So in this case, you will be looking for the answer that is like incorrect or not supported, not mentioned in the passage, right? Not the one that is mentioned. And then let's go over like A, solar energy is a sustainable alternative to traditional fossil fuels. We see that that's mentioned in the passage. That's like one of the main, that's the main idea basically of the passage. Then B, solar energy is cost effective in the long run. We have sentences describing that and saying that yes, over time that is cost effective. Then solar energy promotes local economic development and job creation. And again, yes, and the last part of the passage, you the discussion about that there. And then D, solar energy generates electricity without any operational costs, and that is not supported in the passage. And why? Because it mentions that yes, there are like lower operational costs for solar energy, but it doesn't say that there are like that there aren't any operational costs. So there are some, but they're small or like insignificant, but doesn't say that there are no costs associated with that. And then in the text you can find that. You have a few different examples there. You can just read over them in the slide. And I think that's all we have for this question. Good job here. Again, the same passage, different question. And the poll is visible. Okay, the time is up. Just a few more seconds, so you guys can put your votes in. And okay, I see the votes juggling between B and C. So let's go over it. The correct answer is B. So what is the author's overall tone? Enthusiastic and persuasive. And why that's the case is that generally when you read this passage, you have a good understanding of like advantages of solar energy and how it's like what are the advantages and disadvantages compared to fossil fuels. But the author generally looks more into the advantages and like good sides of the solar energy rather than drawbacks. Doesn't really mention anything else except like the costs associated with the first ones associated with creating all of the resources for the solar energy. And so we can say that yes, it's enthusiastic because it says a lot about like good sides of it. It's cost effective, it's sustainable, it's clean, things of that sort. And that it's kind of like a future, right? For we can kind of sense it in the passage. And then persuasive because it focuses on the facts as well and like mentions some advantages, not just something that the author is thinking about. So we wouldn't necessarily pick C in this case because C is objective and informative. Yes, that is the case, but B would be like more connected to the passage. So it's a better choice in this case. I think that's all we have here, and now we'll move into the passage 2. So it's the same link, just follow there and you will have 1.5 minutes. Okay, so the time is up, and we'll be moving to our first question for passage. Okay, so the poll should be visible. Put your words. Just a few more seconds so you can vote. And the correct answer is E. So the first thing that I noticed in this question is that it says that according to the passage, that's the first thing. So again, you know that you don't need to include any prior knowledge into this question. Just look for the answer in the passage. That's first. And then the second one, so here it doesn't say so, but on the previous slide it said, how does exercise directly contribute to improved mood and mental health? So you already know that you need to look for something that is directly related to that, not necessarily like secondary effects and things of that sort. So in this case, that would be D, and you guys are correct. So by releasing endorphins and increasing serotonin levels. It says that in the passage you can find specific like text mentioned here, the sentences there. And that's how you will find the answer to this question. All the other ones, yes, they might be connected to like the exercise and how it improves the mental health of the person. But first of all, it doesn't like contribute to improved moods directly, right? And then the second one is that maybe it's not explored in the passage that much, right? The answer D is the most directly related to our question and the passage. So good job here. And we can move on. Again, you should be able to see the poll. Okay. So I saw some jumping votes. So let's see what's the correct answer. And it's B. And again, good job who voted. And that would be promotion of physical well-being, or D, sorry. In this case, all the other ones were directly kind of explored in the passage, and the promotion of physical well-being was mentioned in the passage, but it wasn't really like explore deeply into how it's connected to mental health specifically. It was just mentioned that yes, regular exercise is essential for like physical well-being, but it's also essential for mental health, and it wasn't really connected to each other. So in this case, promotion of physical well-being would be the answer that you will choose, because it's not really directly related to the mental health, according to the passage again. That's how it was written in the passage, and if you have like other thoughts about that, that's great. You can explore it with your friends, but not necessarily during SAT. And then the next question. How is visible? So let's see. And yes, to the question in the chat. Sorry, yes, it was option B. We just had option on the slide, but you got the correct answer. And let's go over this question. So it's, exercise is a healthy coping mechanism for anxiety. And I think that we had some quotes for A. And A was exercise exacerbates sympathy. So the way you can approach this question is kind of look for it in the passage again. And you can find that in the text it says that in addition to improving mood, exercise has been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. So that already kind of prompts you to think about that anxiety is connected, or like improvement of anxiety connected to regular exercise. And it says that it explicitly states that there is a healthy coping mechanism that exercise promotes. So you can find those words in the passage and then connect to, and you already have the correct answer. The other ones were kind of the opposite of what we got in the answer D, because they are all exploring kind of like negative sides of connection between anxiety and exercise, except C. But it's also, C explores like partial relationship, that it's only beneficial for certain types of anxiety disorders, and it wasn't explored in the passage this way. It was just stated that exercise can help to cope with anxiety and just promotes like better well-being. So that's how you could have like eliminated other options and then pick. I think that's all we have for our practice, and we have just a couple of minutes before we will end this session. So if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A tab, or you can just write them in the chat and we'll
Perfect time to ask any and all questions you may have, SAT reading related.
And also good luck to everybody. You can do it.
Right. I'm not seeing many questions, and again, feel free to keep dropping them in there. Would just like to remind you guys, feel free, and actually not only feel free, we strongly encourage you all to unlock Cram mode and get the best of the best study materials available to you. Practice questions, cram finales, study guides, cheat sheets, study plans, new features, everything that's going to prepare you to do great, not just on your SATs, but also on your ACTs if you choose to take them, as well as your APs. Again, please give us a follow on Think Fiveable if you had fun today. We have tons of awesome content that you can find on all of our socials. Yeah, but if there's no questions, maybe we can wrap up a couple minutes early. Thank you all so much for coming. Wishing you guys all good luck on studying, and we hope to see you back next week for our cram week.
And thank you guys for joining, and good luck.
Have a great night, everyone.